welcome to another edition of the Children's Corner. This is author Sandra Lott with Your New Life Ministries, here to bring you another episode in an exciting book so you parents can sit, you can do your laundry, and you can put this on and allow your children to be inspired and engaged in another exciting book. This one is called The Sheep That Went Astray. Yes, I'm sure all of you have heard about the Prodigal Son. So this is based on the Prodigal Son. The Sheep That Went Astray is an exciting story about a sheep with too much pride and thought he was big enough and old enough to go out on his own. He thought he didn't need his family anymore. Much like the prodigal son, he soon discovered that home was not all that bad. Children, you may think, oh, Mom is always telling me no. But sometimes those no's are for your protection. Samuel was going to find that out. Samuel was a young sheep with one other brother. They lived with a herd made up of the rest of their family and aunts and uncles on the side of a hill that was miles and miles away from the nearest town. And this is Samuel. It was a bright sunny day and the sky was blue and there was not a cloud to be seen. It was spring and the grass that covered the hills and valleys where Samuel lived was a vivid green. It's a perfect day to go scouting about, Samuel thought to himself as he greeted the day. Oh, and he was so excited and he loved it out there. Samuel was not fully grown, although he thought he was. This tended to create many arguments with his dad. Sometimes we think, oh, it's not all that bad. But children, remember, your parents were children once too. So they know everything because they probably did it themselves. And so they know what can hurt you. So their no's are to protect you. They're not to be mean. Getting back to the story. He loved to roam the hills and valleys and would be gone for hours at a time. There you go, see the picture. Samuel began to set out for his usual scouting trip with his brother when his brother stopped him. Samuel, you better stay close to home, he said. There's a storm brewing. Oh, what do you know? Look at the sky. It's beautiful. It's bright and sunny and blue, and I don't see one cloud. Now leave me alone, and I will do what I want, Samuel replied. See him there arguing with his brother. He's going to find out. Right then, hearing their loud voices, Dad came walking up. Samuel, I want you to stay home. Samuel, thinking he knows everything, said, Dad, such a sunny day is just right for roaming the hills. My hair is twitching. That always tells me a storm is coming. Now, I am your father, and I said to stay home, his dad replied. But is Samuel going to listen? Let's wait and see. Samuel pridefully shouted back with a tone of disrespect, I'm old enough to do what I want, and I'm taking my ration of food and setting out on my own, and you cannot stop me. And off he went. He's just, no, I know what's best. His brother started to go after him, but their dad stopped him, saying, leave him be. He needs to learn for himself that he doesn't know everything. He needs to learn that he isn't the grown-up sheep he thinks he is. It's not always good to go your own way. He will be back. There's Dad. But Dad still loves him. It's just sometimes, children, when we don't want to listen, we have to reap the consequences of our actions, and we have to learn for ourselves. Samuel marched off with an attitude of, I'll show them, in his stride. As he roamed about, his anger subsided and he got lost in the wonder of his surroundings. He walked around looking at everything. Samuel stopped here and there to eat or wet himself in the streams he passed by, but not realizing just how far he had actually wandered off. Yes, he wandered off. He was just lost in where he was going. Samuel was beginning to see a lot of tall trees and realized he had never seen them before. There were a lot of them, and it began to get darker and darker the further he went into the forest. Uh-oh. See, he's starting to see it's not all it cracked up to be. Because at home you have the comfort of your mom and dad. They know what's best for you. They take care of you. They're there for you when you're sick. They feed you and they clothe you. They teach you. Out on your own, you don't have any of that. It was late and clouds were moving in quickly. A sudden crack in the air let him know a thunderstorm was coming, and Samuel got very scared. He realized now he was lost, and was so afraid he ran and ran, looking for some place to hide and take cover. He could not find anything, and weary from exhaustion, he curled up on the ground, and the clouds let loose. Uh-oh. Samuel was scared now. What's going to happen to him? Let's read on and see. The rain poured from the sky with a vengeance. It rained for hours, and Samuel lay there frightened, wet, cold, and lonely. He still had enough pride in him to want to continue on, however. I'll show them, he thought to himself. See? And see, he's thinking back. Samuel had finally drifted off to sleep and had bad dreams all through the night. He dreamed of the dark forest and the thunderstorm. He dreamed of large shadows with glowing eyes, chasing him through the rain and trees, grabbing him as he ran. Samuel woke with a look of fear in his eyes. Oh, the dreams got to him last night. It's because of how being in a place that he didn't know. He was lost and afraid. It was dark and raining. And children, if you see my cat roaming around, probably getting on the back, her name is Sassy. And guess what? I have a book just taken just after her. She did this very same thing. It's just been released here while when I'm recording this video. It is January 24th, 2024. So I just released this book, and it's going to be on our website. You can tell your mom and dad to listen to the end of this, and I'll go through it again with our website. Sassy Goes Exploring. Yes, it's about my cat. His fear quickly went away when he realized it was morning and the sun was shining. The rain had stopped. The bad news was that he had traveled so far into the forest that he could not find anything to eat or drink. The bad news was that he traveled far. I wanted to repeat that. The bad news was he had traveled so far from home. See, he didn't know where he was. So it's easy when you're in your mom and dad's home to act all big and I can do what I want. But once you step outside of that, there's a big world out there. And sometimes it can be scary. So it's best to listen to your parents, children. Reading on. Samuel looked a mess from the rain and sleeping on the ground. He walked and walked for hours. The loneliness was beginning to get him. He's starting to see it's not so bad, that it's not so great out there after all. Meanwhile, his dad stood out by the herd, looking over at the hills in the distance, hoping to see Samuel returning home. No such luck. He did not give up hope. He knew his son would come home one day, and he would be waiting. See, just like the father in the prodigal son, he was always out there watching. Dad was always out there watching. Mom and dad never stopped caring. They may get mad when we disobey them, but that's only because they have to teach right from wrong, and that's for your protection. But they never stop loving you. Samuel finally found the edge of the forest, but the hills on the side did not look the same as where he had come from. He saw some big things coming up out of the ground that his dad said were homes. People lived in them. If the homes had a fence around them, those were probably farms. See, he's seeing something new he had never seen before. After looking around a bit, he saw a farm, and there were other sheep inside. He also saw the other animals he had never seen before. Samuel decided that he would go up to them, and maybe they would give him something to eat. Oh, wow. See, he's seeing the farm, and he's getting closer. What's going to happen? What's going to happen as he gets close to that farm? The owner of the farm saw Samuel and waved to some people not far from him. They came back with a rope and were headed right for little Samuel. The guys caught up to him and put the rope around his neck to keep him from getting away. Samuel didn't know what they were doing, and he screamed and fought and wiggled about. But the people overpowered them. See? You can see the shadow right here of a man's hat that's on the other side of him. That they're coming to get him, to take him to their farm. And he would be pinned up. Samuel was scared now and didn't know what to think. The people brought him inside the fence area and cleaned him up. Samuel had been all muddy due to the rain. Oh, see, now he's clean. He's not so muddy after all. After he was. Wonder how he liked getting a bath. They talked among themselves, and they put him in with the rest of the sheep. The sheep all began asking questions. Samuel asked about some food, but one sheep said, well, our food is already slim picking, so you're not getting any of ours. We don't need another mouth to feed around here. Uh-oh, so these other sheep were not too welcoming. See, it's not always so great on the other side of your mom and dad's house. So Samuel walked over to the corner of the pen and lay down. Lonely and afraid, he cried himself to sleep. When he woke, he thought about his mom and dad and brother, and he realized his dad had been right. And living at home was not all that bad after all. See? And see, right here's tears coming out of his eyes. Samuel's crying. He grew sad again because now he was trapped. He didn't know how to get out. He saw the people get one of the sheep and take him into a covered part of the pen. Curiosity got the best of him, and he followed them to see what was going on. Samuel saw them hold the sheep down while another had this thing in his hands with sharp edges, and it made a slight roaring noise. You know what they're doing? You get wool from sheep, and so they're shaving him. As he looked and watched, he saw them shaving the hair off Samuel, shaving the hair off the sheep they were holding down. Samuel was even more scared. He thought to himself, if I could only get out, I'll go home and do whatever my dad tells me from now on. I will even gather whatever the rest of the herd needs from now on. Oh, looky here. See the scared look on his face? Now he does want to go home. Samuel ran screaming toward the gate right as someone was coming through it. He saw his chance and he pushed by. He got away. Samuel was free. He ran for his life. He ran and ran back into the forest and kept running. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he had to keep going anyway. He would find his home, and he was not stopping. See Samuel off in the distance? He got away. After hours and hours of running through the woods, he finally came to the edge of the forest and saw some very familiar looking green hills and valleys. He was home. Samuel was tired and hungry, but at the thought of coming home, he was not about to stop. See, there's Samuel running. Oh my goodness, he sees home. His stride had slowed down almost to a crawl, but he kept going. Finally, he was standing on the top of the hill just above his home, and there he was, his dad. Samuel's father was standing there in the valley in front of the rest of the herd, looking straight at him. This is where his dad had been every morning since he left. Samuel's dad never gave up on him. See, there he is watching. There's Samuel, and there's his dad. And Samuel is up here. You see, kids, even when your parents get mad at you, it is for a good reason, because they want to teach you right, wrong. They want to teach you that it is not okay to do some things that are going to hurt you. So that's why they have rules. And so it's better to obey them. And when you disobey, they're going to get mad. So that lets you know you did something wrong. Because we don't always know right from wrong until we're taught what that wrong is and what that right way is. And only your parents can set that for you. So next time, listen, remember this story. That sometimes you don't always understand, but you got to know your mom and dad love you, because Samuel's dad never gave up on him. He got mad at disobeying, but he still loved him. His dad ran to meet him, stopping Samuel from saying anything. He said, "My son was lost and now he's found. Bring him something to eat." He snuggled up to him, their heads resting on each other with tears of joy running down their faces. Oh, see, his dad was so happy to see him. They turned around and walked back to the herd with a look of great joy on their faces. Samuel was the sheep that went astray, but now he is forever home. He learned his lesson. Sometimes it's better to obey. God loves all of his children regardless of what you do. His arms are always open. And see, God, he is our heavenly Father. He's the one that created the earth, because the earth didn't just poof into existence. Everything has to have a creator. Just like someone had to make this book. It didn't just all of a sudden fall into my hands. Someone had to create it, and someone had to create the world. God created us. And as God loves us, even when we do something wrong, he doesn't stop loving us. Your mom and dad love you, even when you do something wrong. And they'll always be there for you. See, this is Jesus. This is Jesus. I'm sure you've read about him. That Jesus loved to talk to the little children. And this came from this story in the Bible of the Prodigal Son, Luke 15:17-20. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and he kissed him." See, the father in the prodigal son never gave up on him, just as Samuel's father never gave up on him. The sheep that went astray. And parents, you can find this book on our website, yournewlifeministries.org. And you can find so many other things for adults, our podcasts. You can find so many things, other books, our adult books, and our devotions. And you can find these books on any online store there is out there as well. And please be checking this site, because new book just came out, Sassy Goes Exploring. And yes, it's taken after my cat, Sassy. So until next time for another edition of the Children's Corner, I hope you enjoyed it. And children, I hope you enjoyed it as well. God bless.